What is going on, Raider Nation? It's your boy Small Raider back at it again with another reaction video, another recap video. It's been quite a while. Took a week off last week, and it felt good on Sunday to finally relax. You know, having a bye week felt really good because I didn't really feel depressed. My mental wasn't all over the place. But today, the Raiders had a game. We had a game yet again, and we're in Miami today playing the Dolphins. And even though a lot of people want the Raiders to lose out, especially Shedeur Sanders, there's still a little part of us that still wants to see this team go out there and, I don't know, possibly win or not. You know, like I said, there's a lot of people that don't really want the Raiders to win any more games for the rest of the season because we are just one step closer to that #1 overall pick. And one thing we all know is that we need a quarterback for sure. But today, the Raiders get their asses handed to them 34-19 against the Miami Dolphins, a struggling Miami Dolphins. But of course, they put up a big win over the Raiders today. Now, today was a little bit different. I'm not going to lie to you guys. A lot of things have happened since the bye week. A lot of things going into the bye week has happened. Luke Getsy is no longer with the team. So one big question for me was going into this game, how was this offense going to look? I think the offense actually looked better today. It's not saying much, but knowing Luke Getsy and how bad his play calling was, watching the offense today, I don't think the offense was that bad at all. Yes, Gardner Minshew threw an interception at the end of the game, but it was basically over. I don't really put too much fault on that. Yes, I know we could have still came back and still had a chance to go and go up a score. But the defense, man, was a big letdown in today's game. And that's something that we don't usually say, especially this season. It's always been the offense being the weakest link of this team. But today, some way, somehow, the defense just did not come through. The offense came through, and they were pretty solid. We had some solid, sustained drives, man. Some really long drives here and there. And we only punted one time in this game. So we scored on every drive that we had in this game. But the bad thing about that was the fact that the defense couldn't get the job done. They couldn't stop the Dolphins offense at all. They couldn't apply too much pressure on Tua. They weren't able to cover all the receivers, even stopping the run. It just seemed like we couldn't do anything out there. Yes, we had a couple of good plays here and there defensively, but for the most part, the Dolphins scored on every single drive that they had in this game. Not only that, they controlled the clock, which was really huge and really affected the game later on in the fourth quarter because we knew, even with 5-6 minutes left on the clock, getting the ball back, we needed to keep the ball moving. We had to go into that 2-minute drill, even though there was a lot of time on the field, because we knew that the defense wasn't going to stop the Dolphins. And the Dolphins, for most of the game, every time they did have the ball, they had 6-minute drives, 5-minute drives, some long drives, which took a lot of time off the clock. And it kind of really hindered the Raiders. Even though the Raiders didn't play bad offensively for the most part, the defense staying on the field for as long as they did really hurt the Raiders, and especially because they weren't able to stop them on any drives. The only time they didn't score was going into halftime. You look at every drive that they had a touchdown, field goal. They had another touchdown, a touchdown, a field goal. They just seemed unstoppable out there today, and that's one reason why the Raiders lost this game. You know, outside of, like I said, Gardner Minshew throwing that interception at the end of the game, I feel like if our defense kind of kept the same energy that they've had for most of the season, we would have been in a much better position right now. Now, I do want to credit Scott Turner in this offense because, like I said, we look pretty solid out there. Minshew had a solid game today. He definitely looked much different in this offense than he did when he was under Luke Getsy. He was 30 for 43 for 282 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Now, another guy that really took advantage of his opportunity with this new offense is Brock Bowers. Being that #1 weapon, being that #1 target for Gardner Minshew, this dude had a breakout game today. He had 13 receptions for 126 yards and a touchdown. On top of that, Brock Bowers passed Darren Waller, according to the Raiders PR, for the most receptions in Raiders history by a tight end through the first 10 games of a single season. And I guess that's a huge accomplishment, but it feels like everything is a huge accomplishment because we don't really have too much success, especially when it comes to these skill players. But, you know, I do want to give a huge shout out to Brock Bowers for having such a big game and being that blanket for Gardner Minshew, especially when we needed first down, some drives here and there, you know, to keep drives alive. He was one guy that we could definitely rely on because we couldn't rely on the run game. The run game was horrible today. Like always, we have no run game. Zamir White, Alexander Madison has some solid plays here and there, but overall, the Raiders rushed 16 times for only 60 yards. No help in that market. So to see that we were passing the ball much more, the passing game was flourishing under Gardner Minshew, it's something different to see. Now, like I said, the defense really lacked in today's game. Jonnu Smith had himself a day today out of nowhere. Of course, there's always going to be some random player that goes off on the Raiders, and Tyreek Hill, who struggled throughout the whole season. I know for a fact because I have him on my fantasy team, and he really screwed me over this year. He had a solid game today, had a touchdown today. It was so bad that when it seemed like we were going to make a stop and get the ball right back to at least give us a chance to take a lead, the defense has a blown coverage, and Jonnu Smith takes one all the way to the house, man. Nobody touched, like he went untouched into the end zone, and not one Raider in sight. Embarrassing. And on top of that, Tyreek was caught, just basically taunting our sideline, especially AP. And you could tell AP was just frustrated with this. There's not much he could say because we're getting our asses handed to us by a Miami Dolphins team that has been struggling this whole year. But like I said before, of course, these are the teams that always pop off against us. Any team that struggles throughout the season, it don't matter who you are. If you play the Raiders, you most likely going to have a great game. And that's what happened to us today, losing 34-19. Now, another thing that I found really kind of frustrating was the referees in this game. Of course, there was a lot of blown calls here and there. Referees aren't going to be perfect. We know that, especially when it comes to Raider games, the referees are always going to screw us over in some way, some fashion. Now, I'm not going to say that this flag changed the whole game. None. I'm not gonna say that, but there was a lot of plays that could have went a whole different way. I just kind of find it funny though that the referee threw a flag after watching a replay on the Raiders. First time that's ever happened in the history of the NFL, and of course, it happens against the Raiders. Like I said, I'm not saying that changed anything, but I just found that kind of frustrating. I was like, damn, for real? Come on now. Come on, Oos. There's not that much more I can say about this team so far this season. It's already looking like the season is gone. Like we had a small glimmer of hope to possibly make a run. I was joking about this on one of the Raiders previous posts. I just said, oh shit, 10-7 season loading. And they even talked about that when we had a chance to stop the Dolphins from getting a first down. I don't know who the commentators were, but they were talking about teams that made the playoffs starting the season off with 2 wins. And I was like, man, don't put that on us, man. But the moment that they brought that up, I knew we were going to lose this game. I just feel like so far this season, I have become numb to this feeling. I'm not really mad anymore. Like these losses, as disappointing as it is every single week, I'm not mad anymore. I'm not frustrated anymore. But I guess the silver lining in all of this is the fact that we are just one step closer, Raider Nation, to a top pick in the NFL draft. We're going to go get our franchise quarterback in next year's draft. I mean, that's one thing that a lot of Raider fans are at least looking forward to with how bad the season has been going throughout this whole season. Now, one thing I do want to bring up, I kind of talked about it a little bit in the beginning of this video, was Shedeur Sanders. Everybody knows that Shedeur Sanders is one name that most of Raider Nation wants. Of course, Cam Ward is up there as well, but Shedeur Sanders has been linked to the Raiders on multiple occasions, and it just kind of seems like the writing is already kind of on the wall. One, because he's had talks with Mark Davis. Mark Davis wants him over here, made him feel like he was at home when he was over here for the Las Vegas Aces game. Shedeur Sanders got some cleats from the Raiders, and he even thanked the Raiders. There was even a vlog where he said, yo, Raiders, come get me, or whatever it was, talking about the Raiders and possibly making that connection there. And then one thing that has been going on for the past couple of weeks, something that kind of like just got figured out or came to light, was the fact that every single loss that the Raiders have had this season, Shedeur Sanders has tweeted out, "Thank you, God." And somebody found it. I don't know who found it out, but it started making waves all over social media. So funny enough, today when the Raiders lose, not too long after the game, Shedeur Sanders just tweets this, "Thank you, God." I think we know that Shedeur wants to be a Raider, and I feel like the Raiders want to have Shedeur if he was available for the Raiders to get in a draft. We know Tom Brady has ties, has trained with Shedeur Sanders, so there's something there. And I know there's other people saying, maybe it's just Sunday. He likes to, as a Christian, he likes to thank God every Sunday, and that might be true. But the weeks that the Raiders have won, he didn't tweet any of that. So say what you want to say. As shitty as it is to lose yet another game, there's some light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully. Again, Raider fans getting their hopes up isn't really a good recipe for success. So whatever happens moving forward, I just feel like we have got to build this team in the offseason. It's going to be a real crucial offseason for the Raiders, whether or not we bring back AP, what we do in the offseason. There's even news and reports coming out that recently came out this past weekend that Tom Brady is going to have about 90% of control on this team and who we find as the next franchise quarterback. And I feel like if there's anybody out there that could find the next quarterback for the Raiders, hopefully is Tom Brady. But with that said, let me know how y'all feel about this game. What do you feel about the future of the Raiders? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Until the next time, this is your boy, Some More Raider, and your boy is Yow.